there were other factors in that hand. It wasn't just here's the math of the hand, right? So I played this hand versus Doug where he had 4-5 suited. And Wesley had seen his cards, or he showed him his cards or something like that, and he said, I like that hand. And my first kind of guess was some kind of suited, reasonably connected type hand. And, you know, in hindsight, that was right? And so then when that hand happened versus Wesley, it's kind of like, sometimes I get this guess of like, maybe I'm a little bit inside someone's head, like a little bit understanding what they're thinking, what their mindset is. And I had this one pretty big example where like, that seemed to be true versus Wesley, right?
I saw Wesley's hand.
Is that 5,000 Slayer then?
Fine. He's gonna fold, right? I haven't looked at my hand. I know what you have. It's a weird spot.
30.
I'm just gonna.
Well, if you're gonna play, then
I fold. Just I'm.
Oh, switch.
He already did.
What you have.
I know what you have.
You've seen it already.
What?
sorry.
30 to go right now.
Yep.
Well, that changes the whole hand. I mean, without it, I literally don't 4-bet probably. I probably call the 30 and be like, fuck, Mitty Wesley, I'm worried he's gonna do some crazy shit today. Let me just call, right? Like, I really had that game plan going into the day.
Dwan, who just got bluffed, is going to 4-bet.
Most of the people at that table, if it went raise, re-raise, same spot in squid, same stacks, I would have re-raised queens. Wesley specifically, I don't think I would have. People were calling him a nit. And I kind of felt like he might go for it, make some crazy bluff, something like that. I didn't really want to give him that spot versus me. But that whole little spiel of the way they were talking, like whatever percent I'd normally say someone had aces or kings, after that little spiel, I probably thought it was like 10% as likely Wesley had those than he normally would. So I remember that's why I re-raised the queens. I made it 100, I think. I remember kind of thinking like if he shoves, I think I might be calling, which is insane for 1,500 big blinds, right? I think the straddle might have been on to 750 actually, but. So he re-raised a little big, he made it 275, and I was like, oh fuck, I guess we're, testing my read here. Generally there you're gonna peel the queens, right? Like, yeah, maybe you could make it hero fold once in a blue moon or whatever. I think generally you want to peel. It's funny that people not being able to see what I have part. Like that's, because obviously I didn't know that at the time. I thought I showed my cards and stuff, and it does kind of change it or whatever. Yeah, like.
All the way down to final table each, and then combined at like 2 tables and redraw and they play it out.
Maybe they can play them longer, yeah.
Hey, I think guys, this is a really big pot. I don't know.
Sorry.
About 125.
The flop came 883, I think, and he bet quite small. He bet like I think 175 at about like 560. Generally, you're gonna peel. I could have folded pre, and I definitely would be folding the turn like almost always there versus most people. There's no real reason I can't have aces. I definitely can have kings, and there's really not going to be many hands that I peel pre-flop with for that extra 175, then let alone to call flop. Like you're really just getting to a range that's like queens is basically going to be the bottom of. A lot of times I'm not even going to have queens there.
Wesley's hands are shaking. And it looks like he is loading up for another bet. Remember, Doug Polk knows what Wesley has.
That whole story seemed like, oh, this is Wesley's one bluff. He's mad everyone's calling him a nit. He's ready to do his one bluff. And then like a bunch of the stuff he did throughout the hand was like, oh, to me, he seemed ready to do his one bluff. I like really trusted that read. Not to say he couldn't have talked me out of it, but so throughout the whole hand, I was trying to like not really let that be obvious.
1.2 million in there already. If Dwan calls this, we'll have one of the biggest pots we've ever seen, and still a river to come. And there's the call.
And even on the river, like, I was just really not expecting ace. I mean, especially not kings. Kings I like basically ruled out, but even aces I wasn't. I thought he was gonna, rip 9-7 suited in my face or an 8, that would flop trips or something like that. But I just really didn't expect aces or kings.
All in.
There's the all in.
He said all in?
He said all in.
For sure? Well, I guess.
Said on.
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna get a water. When he went all in, I was like, all right, I basically know him to be calling, barring realizing I, lost my brain cells or whatever. Wesley does something to convince me. But it like in that kind of spot, of course, you should take a minute, and think it through. And so that's why I like got up, get water, whatever. And it was so funny when I came back and his head's like already down. I just like, yeah, come on, like. There's not much he could have done where I wasn't calling at that point anyway, but it definitely, whatever chance I thought he had aces and kings went down by even a little more. So Doug saw his hand, tried to talk him out of 3-betting. He 3-bet anyway. I mean, I guess he just flopped an 8, but seems very hard to fold. Oh. And most of all, the thing he did that was really absurd was he never acknowledged that Doug saw his hand, that whole thing was talked about. Right? I've played pots significantly bigger than this, where someone saw someone else's hand, a player at the table, a staff, or whatever, and it's like you'd at least glance at him for a second, you'd think about, you'd register it for a second. And Wesley was so kind of like adamant, like pushing to not do that. To me, there was very little reason that would be happening. Specifically, if he had kings, almost certainly he would be addressing it, because that, like, then he'd want to know, wait, do I go value? That's actually kind of thin for 800 big blind, like. So I basically ruled out kings like completely, and even aces. You would just think like that would be the normal thing to do. It kind of didn't make sense. If he has a good hand, he's more likely to do stuff to try to get someone to call. And if he had air, he's more likely to do the kind of defensible thing if he felt like bluffing. Normally, for months or whatever, Wesley never felt like bluffing. But I happened this one day to think he might feel like bluffing. And kind of the way he was acting throughout the whole hand. Like, let's say I thought maybe 10% as often he had aces or kings. I would have expected that kind of his actions, his stuff would have like talked me out of that read. And basically everything he did throughout the hand reaffirmed it. Feels like you're just flopping fucking trips, huh?
He's got queens. There's the call.
Hey, call.
Call.
Tom Dwan has just won the biggest pot in the history of televised poker. $3.1 million.